Hi, I'm Mike Thompson. I've been scuba diving since 1996, and just last year I acquired my third tank, or diving cylinder if you prefer. I don't. When I was shopping for this latest cylinder, I did a lot of online searching, and the common opinion was that you should not get anything smaller than a 19 cubic foot pony cylinder. Now, I'm not one to believe things that I see online just because someone decided to post it. I like to figure things out for myself, as you all know, and then, of course, pass on what I've learned. And so this tiny guy obviously won't be my primary tank. So this little tank isn't a 19 cubic foot cylinder. I thought 19 seemed a little bit large, especially for me. Now, if you go looking to buy your very first tank, what should you buy? Well, I'm just going to flat out tell you, you should get an aluminum 80. Why? Well, because it's the most common tank out there. It's like the Ford F-150 or the Toyota Camry of scuba tanks. It's lightweight, it's cheap, and it works. And it makes a great first tank. It's an aluminum 80, and I got this one here 1997 for my birthday. And it's still my primary tank even now. Now, I did sand it down and repaint it a couple years ago, before its last hydrostatic test. And I invented these little rapid rollers to make it easier to do. I also acquired an aluminum 63 in this last year, because if I'm just messing around in the pool, or if Alex wants to dive with me, the aluminum 80 is a little bit too big for him. And so I got a 63. And it tends to get dinged in the pool around the shoulder. That's why these protectors are up so high. So back to this little tank. This one is a 13 cubic foot tank. Now, why did I go against the common wisdom out there on the internet and get a 13 instead of a 19? Well, it's because I calculated that a 13 is what I needed. So I'm going to show you how to calculate the tank size that's best for you. And this isn't just for any pony tank either. You can use it for primary tanks as well. So here we go. It wasn't until my deep diving class that I was introduced to the concept of SAC rate. SAC stands for surface air consumption. It's a measure of how fast you use air, and it can be adapted for any depth. And this will tell you how long you can stay down given your gas supply. Now, it is tank size dependent, so my SAC rate on my aluminum 80 would be a lot lower than on this little pony bottle. The units on SAC rate are PSI per minute. And since the pony bottle holds a lot less air, about 1/6 in fact, my SAC rate on this tank has to be about 6 times higher than it would on my aluminum 80. So the formula for your SAC rate is PSI over time times 33 over your depth plus 33. Well, to calculate my SAC rate, I went to the bottom of a very shallow pool and stayed there for 15 minutes. My depth was only 7 feet, and I used 125 PSI in that time. So if you plug all this in, 125 over 15 times 33 over 7 plus 33, it equates to 6.875. Yes, my SAC rate is ridiculously low. But then again, I'm not very big, and I'm extremely relaxed underwater, so I don't breathe much. As a side note, this figure is important for diving at any depth because you want to dive with a buddy who has a similar SAC rate as you do. I once dived with a guy who sucked down air so fast that his tank was in the red zone by the time we surfaced, and that same amount of time I had only used 700 PSI. I could have stayed down a lot longer had I had a buddy with a similar SAC rate as me. So try to hook up with a buddy who's with a similar SAC rate as you. But back to the calculation and task at hand. I'm a big fan of self-reliance, redundancy, and insurance. That's probably just the engineer in me. I don't want to rely on a buddy who might be out of arm's reach way down deep. This is why I wanted my own independent air source, and that led me to this pony bottle. I've got an old spare regulator and stuff that I'll hook up to it. But now I was considering the Spare Air brand, of course, of alternate air sources. But as I was going through my SAC rate calculations, I realized that it just wasn't going to cut it, because Spare Air only makes cylinders up to 6 cubic feet. Now, if I wanted to rely on a buddy's alternate air source, this would probably be enough to swim over to him and use his. But my plan was to be able to surface independently of anyone else. And 6 cubic feet simply wasn't going to do it from, way down deep to recreational limits with the safety stop and everything. So, now, of course, risking the bends certainly beats risking drowning, and some air is better than no air. But I wanted to optimize everything, and so I chose 13 cubic feet. Let me show you how I did the calculation in case you're shopping for a second air source as well. So if we go through here and compute the SAC rate for several different key depths and times, you'll see how big a tank you actually need, which is what I did. So here we go. Figuring a worst case scenario of 130 feet. Let's figure on 1 minute to sort things out and switch over to an alternate air source. 1 minute is a very long time at depth, and that's more than enough time to get things sorted out and switch over to isolate the problem. A lot can also go wrong in a minute, but it's an awful lot of time when things are going hectic. So I ran the calculation on my aluminum 80 under these conditions. 130 feet, that's 4 atmospheres of water, but you got to add the 1 atmosphere of air, so that's a 5 atmosphere dive. And so the air consumption is 5 times greater than it is at the surface. And that, for me, is 34 psi, because it's only 1 minute. If it took me 2 minutes to sort everything out, then I would use 68 psi. So now how much do I use on my ascent? Well, I need to plan for a safety stop at 15 feet for 5 minutes. And I also don't want to ascend more than 30 feet a minute. And so it's going to take me about 4 minutes to get from maximum depth up to my safety stop. And so how much air am I going to use in that 4 minutes? Well, this is the next part of the problem. The average depth between max and safety stop is 73 feet, and I'm going to spend about 4 minutes getting there. So we run this all through the sac rate formula, and you find out that I'm going to use about 88 psi in that amount of time for the ascent. And now for the safety stop. I'm at 15 feet for 5 minutes. That's simple enough. My total absolute pressure is 1.5 atmospheres, right? Because 15 is about half of 33 plus the 1 atmosphere of air. So it's 1.5 times my sac rate times 5, which is 50 psi for my safety stop. And the last part of my ascent has an average depth of about 8 feet, and it's only going to take me 30 seconds to swim from my safety stop to the surface. It's almost negligible, but I went ahead and calculated this, and it's 4 psi. So all in total, these numbers are 177 psi. But that's on the 80 cubic foot tank. A 19 cubic foot tank is about 1/4 of that. So the air usage would be 4.2 times as much. Remember that sac rate is size dependent. But the conversion's easy. I just divided 80 by 19 and get 4.2. And so in this case, 177 times 4.2 is 743. Well, that's not much now, is it either? Okay, but, well, I want to have 500 left in my tank at the end of the dive. And if I'm in trouble, my sac rate's lot likely higher, perhaps double. So you got 500 of reserve plus 743 times 2, 1986. Let's call that 2,000. But my fill pressure is 3,000. So I'm only using 2/3 of my tank. Well, this told me that 19 cubic feet is way too big. I really don't want to carry around more than I have to, and I ran the numbers with the next size down, which is the 13 cubic foot tank. It's the same diameter, but it's 5 inches shorter. The 19 would be up to about here. And so aluminum 80 over 13 is 6.15, and so my air consumption looks like this instead. It goes up to this, 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 and this. 209, 544, 308, and 26. The total of all this is 1087, times 2 for the panic factor, which is 2174, plus 500, which is 2674, which is under my 3,000 fill pressure, and so I've got air to spare, and for my pre-dive air check. And this is why I chose the 13 cubic foot tank over a 19 cubic foot tank. It meets my needs adequately, and it's significantly smaller than the 19 cubic foot tank would have been. Now, of course, where do you put this extra tank? Well, typically alongside the main tank. Well, I went shopping online for some tank clamps, and they're ridiculously expensive, typically around $100. And I thought that was nuts. And so, I designed my own. This is made out of rust-proof plastic. You simply tighten it to the main tank and clip your pony tank on the side. It's easy to release the pony should you ever need to. Sac rate is really fun to play with. It lets you know how long your air should last before a dive, so you can use it to plan dives, find the right buddy, or buy new tanks. You're welcome. I hope this helped you out, and now you can make much better purchasing decisions and plan longer dives. But go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Mike Thompson, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.